I know there's a sign there, but you will have to keep it brief, but if I can, I'll try and get as many people in as we possibly can. Lady over there.
Good afternoon. First time Sturgeon and High Police in Berkshire. I think we've all really enjoyed coming here today and hearing the stats about the membership that the SNP Trade Union Group has and how it's, I'll say it again for you, how it's greater than the Labour membership in Scotland. However, we have also heard today about the funding for this group, and I would ask, as First Minister and as leader of the SNP, what commitment you can give that this group receive further appropriate funding that has been asked for this group.
Just so that the room can hear that, is overall funding actively for the trade union group?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know what funding you've asked for. I'm happy to consider with the party's national executive what arrangements might be appropriate. I would say this to you though, it's not intended as a kind of brush off to that question. I will certainly take that away, but you've got a fantastic resource with 16,000. I remember when, in my younger days, hard to remember, but I remember when I was involved in the Young Scottish Nationalists in those days, you know, we used to do fundraising and raise funds to keep us going, and probably at that point we had, you know, a couple hundred members across, if that, across the country. And you get 16,000 members, you get fantastic opportunities for fundraising, as well as, obviously, rightly, expecting the party to do its bit of supporting you. So I'm happy to take that away and discuss with the National Executive Committee what support we might be able to make available to you. Okay, gentleman there in the front row.
During the referendum, there was a government to renationalise Royal Mail. Can you confirm if that government is still in place and how it can be done?
The commitment of the SNP to want Royal Mail to be renationalised remains as strong as it was in the referendum. Unfortunately, we can't do it because we don't have the power to do it. And that was one of the consequences of not having a yes vote and not becoming independent. And as we see, the Tory government announced just last week or the week before that it's going to carry on and privatise the rest of Royal Mail. So we will oppose that. We will oppose it in the House of Commons. We will argue for renationalisation, but I'm not going to stand here and tell you that we have the ability to do that right now.
Could you propose maybe buying some of the shares that they're going to flog?
I'll use the money that we had earmarked for the trade union group.
And MSP, Angus MacDonald and John McNally proposed maybe you could bring up this issue and they could be shareholders.
All right, okay, we will look at all options. I mean, I'm serious. I'm not, you know, in all seriousness, I'm not saying that that's possible or we would look to do that, but we will look at all options to protect what really matters to us in Scotland. That's our job as Scotland's party, as Scotland's government, as I think we're the third biggest party in Westminster. I think the reality is we are the real and only effective opposition in Westminster. So our job is to make sure we take every opportunity to protect what matters in Scotland and protect the interests of people right across this country. So any ideas, even that one, will obviously be considered. The lady in the pink blouse.
Catherine Hanford, brought up East Kilbride, currently living in Lancashire. I suspect I know the answer to this question, but I've promised I'll ask it. All the people that I live around and my relatives in the southwest and the southeast, who every time I see them ask me, did you see that petition on the internet about redrawing the border below Manchester? And then they say, when are the SNP, and they're really serious about it, when are the SNP going to field candidates south of the border? And I said, well, I don't think right away, but I will ask the question. I know I have people that stand for you.
I'm going to give that, you know, well-known and well-used politician answer. We have no current plans. You know, during the general election, it was one of the most amazing things that amused me no end. Because, of course, on the one hand, during the general election, we had this media campaign, Tory campaign, saying everybody in England's terrified of the SNP. I was the most dangerous woman in Britain, according to the Daily Mail. As we had this media campaign telling everybody in England that they should be terrified of us, I had an inbox that was heaving, you know, under the weight of all these people in England emailing me to say, why can't we vote for the SNP? We want to during the election. You know, after the referendum, I think maybe lots of us in Scotland thought that there was some, you know, the kind of energy and political engagement and commitment that the referendum seemed to kick off. I think we maybe thought that was somehow unique to Scotland. What I learned during the general election is that there's just as strong an appetite for change in England as there is in Scotland. They just don't have the same outlets for that change as we do. So, you know, I'm a great believer in never saying never in politics, but, you know, we're the SNP, we stand for Scottish independence, obviously, and we stand for the best interests of Scotland. So I don't think we'll be standing candidates elsewhere, but we are keen, very keen, and I say this, I said it repeatedly during the election, and I'll say it again, and I'll keep saying it. Just because we are a Scottish party doesn't mean we are an inward-looking party or that we only care about Scotland. That could not be further from the truth. We will make common cause with people across the UK, with people across Europe, with people across the world for the things that we believe to be right. We're an outward-looking internationalist party.
To the gentleman in the marvellous, yes, shirt up there.
Well, Nicola, United Member in Glasgow. First Minister, I take the point that you made to the first question about using the resource of the SNP Trade Union Group. We've also heard today about some of the demographic and participation challenges facing the trade union movement in Scotland at the moment. And obviously the SNP is 1 in 50 of the Scottish population. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on how the SNP can help to revitalise trade unionism.
Well, we can do it, first of all, by all of these 16,000 members that have joined the SNP Trade Union Group, getting out there and evangelising in your own workplaces, in your own trade unions, in your own communities. We can do it as a party by standing for the things that are important to trade unionists, and I've set out what some of them are. We are in a, I don't mean to underplay the challenges that trade unions face. I don't mean to underplay challenges that, you know, even in Scotland still exist about encouraging people to get engaged, but we've never had a better time than we have in Scotland right now, where we've got a population that is more engaged than it's ever been to activate and persuade people to get involved in things. And so, you know, as the party, we've got a duty to support the trade union group, and I've made that clear. But you're also in a fantastic position to get out there and grow your membership and grow your activist base even further than you already have done. I mean, I know we joke about you're bigger than the Scottish Labour Party, but you know, that's not a joke. Think about that. This organisation, an affiliated organisation to a political party, is bigger than the opposition party in Scotland. That's an amazing opportunity. And over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, as an organisation, you really have to grasp that opportunity and get out there and, you know, by the time 5 years have elapsed, be double that size. You know, grow and encourage that growth, and we'll help you as much as we can.
Questions.
Lord of the Chair of Corporate Trade Union Council, as you are concerned with immigration, I'm really interested in promoting and growing jobs for the local community. I've noticed recently, like our high streets like in Falkirk, a lot of retail chains have been closing down, and that's resulted in a lot of people still losing their jobs. And I'm also concerned about the high streets not being what they used to be. Like years ago, a place to go and buy within a lot of people, and also that also helps towards the country. And another thing, like in Corporate too, we've got I look next to a distillery, close by distillery, and I've 10 years it's been lying empty. Like, and I'm really surprised that there's not been any investment there. I mean, to come try it. I know there might be problems and something that stopped all that happening, but what I'm concerned about, I can't see the growth in jobs in the local areas as much as there should be. And I'm just wondering what Scottish Government is going to be doing sort of to help that, to promote that.
Well, firstly, everything we do in some way or another is connected to try to create jobs and grow jobs and get more people into work and more people into good, well-paid work. And on the good news side, I don't want to start talking about the statistics, but employment has been growing in Scotland. So, you know, there's something nearly when you look at the kind of low point of the recession, when employment levels were at their lowest in Scotland compared to today, there's 200,000 almost more people in jobs now. Now, we want to keep that going. And within that, female employment is at an all-time high. Youth unemployment is, you know, a 6-year low. So it's going in the right direction, but we need to do much more. But, you know, much of what we do, I was in America last week or the week before last, and, you know, that was principally about getting out there and selling Scotland. I don't know the particular details of the distillery you talk about, but I'd be keen to look into that to see why that's been lying down for so long. In terms of town centres, it's something very close to my own heart. One of the principal reasons behind our small business bonus, taking business rates away from the small business community, is to help regenerate town centres. We've also had some proposals made around how we do that even more. Derek Mackay was the Minister taking that forward. So there's a lot of thinking going into how we, given, you know, the world as it is, with the growth of the out-of-town shopping centres, with the growth of internet shopping, the challenges that town centres face, how do we support town centres to develop themselves? I've just come in here, driven through Bridge of Allen, which is a great example of a thriving, vibrant town centre. Now, not every town centre can be like that, but what is the strength of all of these places and how do we build on that? So we're doing a lot of work around that, and if you would be interested to hear more about it, I can arrange for the details of that to get to you.
The gentleman in the blue shirt just there.
David Bain, the Livingston and Bellshill. I'd like to address you as a living wage employer. And that's really a question I was going to put to Christina earlier on, as to what is the SNP trade union group, what can they do to make the rest of the MSPs pay the living wage? Because it's one thing as a councillor in the established Republican of Lanarkshire, that every time that we raise this issue, they pay a living allowance to their employees who don't pay the living wage. It doesn't count in holidays, it doesn't count in overtime. The thing that comes back when we raise this issue and Larry can confirm it, is that they then point to our MSPs, etc., who are not paid the living wage, and who are...
I'm not aware of any MSP who don't pay.
Internship.
Yeah, there's a difference between, like, I'm going through, as an individual MSP, I'm currently going through the process of becoming an accredited living wage employer. But I've been paying the living wage to my staff for probably the entirety of the time I've been an MSP. So I think all of our MSPs are paying the living wage. They're not all yet accredited, but I think most of them are now going through the process of becoming accredited. But don't let that take away from the fact that they are paying the living wage.
And well, the other aspect of it that's put against it often is the use of internships. It seems that a lot of interns who come from Edinburgh University, from wealthy foreign backgrounds, and you know, that local kids at these universities don't have that same opportunity because they can't afford to take on a job or an internship maybe 20 or 30 hours a week.
There's lots of, I mean, I know, I personally, because of my sort of days working pattern just now, I don't have interns working in my office, but I know, you know, almost every day in Parliament you meet interns, you know, local Scottish interns working for MSPs, so there are plenty who are being given those opportunities. There are also, you're absolutely right, there are some quite well-established international intern programmes where students come from overseas. I think there's a lot of merit in that, and giving, not just giving these young people the opportunity to find out about Scotland. You know, they then go home and become evangelists for Scotland and, you know, sell Scotland in their home markets. But you're right, I want to see as many young people get opportunities locally as possible. But the general thing I would say to you is this, and I believe this in all, you know, areas of politics, and I certainly believe it on behalf of the SNP, as leader of the SNP, what we preach we must practice. We cannot have a divide between our rhetoric and the reality. So all of what I've been talking about today, about fair work, about equality, about making sure we stand up for the rights of hard-working people, we must do that in how we behave as well as in the things we argue. And I think that's very important.
Okay, the last couple of questions, and then we'll have to close it down. I'm afraid I'm only going to have to go with people that I've seen currently. Okay, this lady here.
Amy Twomey speaking, Newson City Venture Council. Given the Tory cuts to the subsidies for our onshore wind energy, at the same time that they're investing huge sums in Chinese technology for waste burning. What, if anything, can the Scottish Government do to protect our renewable energy sector, which is, world renowned, but it seems like there's a concerted effort to undercut it at the moment?
Well, I mean, we're working very hard to, behind the scenes as well as in our public utterances to try to bring some common sense and coherence to UK energy policy. Most of the key levers of decision-making on energy policy still lie at Westminster. The Smith Commission proposals tilt that balance a little bit more in our favour, but not in any substantial way. The announcement this week on onshore wind was perverse and irrational and outrageous. Onshore wind is the most cost-effective low-carbon energy source. It's the most cost-effective way of moving to renewable energy. And to cut support for that at this stage will make it more difficult for us to meet renewable targets, climate change targets, but it will put consumer bills up as well and threaten a lot of investment in the country. So we'll continue to oppose that and to try to get some common sense there. But there is a lot of incoherence about UK energy policy right now. You're right to point to the obsession of the Tory government to back the wrong things and not back the right things. They're making massive subsidies to support new nuclear generation when we seriously need sensible support for renewables. So we'll do two things: continue to argue within the current framework to get as much common sense as possible, but also more substantially perhaps continue the argument that these are again decisions that would be far better in our hands, so that we can take them based on the needs of Scotland and what makes sense here.
The final question was Jim here.
We're going to go back to the living wage, about 200 schools in Scotland, or they're saying that you want to be 500. The employed by an English fellow, you have to still be with the living wage, and that's 500?
You don't have to be any firm employee. People in Scotland can sign up to the living wage. I should say, there are already 81% of employees in Scotland who already get the living wage or above the living wage. But that remaining 20%, just short of 20%, is very concentrated in particular sectors. So catering, retail, hospitality sectors, the care sector, these are where you still find concentration. So we are working very systematically with companies, in partnership with companies, to try to get that figure up and keep it going up. But you don't have to be a Scottish headquartered company to be an accredited living wage employer. We encourage any company that employs people in Scotland to sign up for that.
It's just everything that I feel like there's no chance. That would be like your sport again.
Anyway, apologies we couldn't get to more questions. Obviously, time's been very tight today. We're actually overrunning. I'd just like to give thanks to the First Minister for coming today. Our extremely busy schedule, as I found when I was trying to book her. It seems everyone wants to see Nicola and not just us. So could I ask you just to